we thought that instead of putting awards and prizes to incentivize the top performers on this kind of contest, it would be better to work on the background, on what makes you sell, what knowledge you need, and what makes you an incredible professional in front of a customer, because you know everything, not just the product, you know the objections, you know the industry, right? And we started playing with that, and then we discovered that the main win for the user was not just a prize at the end for the top, it was the knowledge that they acquired.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, where we meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Compettia with Mr. Jaume Juan, who is the CEO and founder at Compettia. Jaume, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate you taking some time to give us an overview about what you guys are doing at Compettia and who you are and what you do. And I'm excited to dive into the organization itself and how you guys are growing and scaling. Now, for everyone who's unfamiliar, Compettia is in the enterprise sales enablement space, leveraging a gamification platform. And the company itself has been around for 30 years. So I'm excited to dive into the organization, what your value is, and who you work great with. But our community is built of entrepreneurs and executives like yourself, and also lots of sales and marketing leaders who may be ideal clients for you. So as the CEO and founder there at Compettia, I'd love it if you can tell our community a little bit about yourself and some of the things you're focused on.
Yeah, thank you. So, I am here in Barcelona, Spain, based here, and I started the company, as you mentioned, 30 years ago. I got my degree in information science a long time ago. I finished in 1993, and then started the company. So that was the starting point.
I love it. Yeah. What was kind of the origin story, right? Like coming out of college, like, was this part of your thesis project? Did you see a gap like in the market? Like, tell me, I guess, about the early days.
Well, it's funny because I started the company with no business knowledge at all. It just was to serve a very small customer. They had a custom software need, and I just started coding software for them, and it was really interesting because the first time I needed to create an invoice, I bought a book about invoicing. I took the floppy disk on the cover, and I just took the template and I wrote whatever on the invoice and said the invoice. So that was the really starting point, and it was no business purpose in mind. Nothing there, just that kind of opportunity, and since then we just started doing some custom development for other customers until we found an opportunity with one of the projects, because we increasingly created more complex software, and we found an opportunity to develop a client-server platform to automate all Microsoft Excel reporting in large companies. In fact, that was one of the projects. We turned this into a product, and we started selling, and we became from a service company doing ad hoc development into a product company, which was really an incredible change for us. And we started understanding what was selling a packaged product, marketing, and all this stuff. And it was kind of end of 1999 where we sold the first software. So internet started there, more or less. We created our website. We had interest from everywhere. We started doing some business remotely, which for us was, wow, they bought without seeing us, right? And that was the first, let's say, shift into a product company. And later on, we discover 18 years later, we discovered gamification. We discovered how that was an emerging trend in 2012, more or less, and we decided to do a shift, a major pivot there, because business intelligence was a saturated market at that point, and we had a major pivot. We explored that market. We became experts at that point, and then we became interested into e-learning and gamifying the e-learning. And then when we thought about, okay, what we can train about using gamification, what has the most value for companies, and we came up with the idea of, let's enable sales through knowledge. And I think this is one of the portion of delivering knowledge and ensuring that knowledge that has the most impact in companies. That's why we focus now in sales enabling, not just their sales forces, but also their sales channels.
Mhm. I love it. I appreciate you diving into like what was the original, process and company that you started back in the early 90s. And sounds like, you created a very complex software, turned that into, a product, sold that product for almost 20 years, and then realized that there needed to be a big shift, potentially for the company. And like, what do you think that shift was specifically? And then we can talk a little bit about like, the platform itself. Like, I'm just kind of curious.
So we realized that at that point,
because you mentioned that the business intelligence space was super saturated, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So and now you're in this new space. So like, was it really just, hey, like we need to pivot and do something new? Like what was kind of like the background behind that change itself into developing new products?
Yeah, I think several things happen at the same time. We had an on-premise software that ran on let's say legacy technology, client server. I mean, everything was starting to become SaaS at that point, and we decided we need to change our business model, but we can do it offering our product under this subscription model, or we can change, right? And as our product was about reporting in Excel, the first things that we did was, why we don't gamify the reports that we send to the sales reps and managers, and we show there not just the sales figures, but also points, and we start having rankings, and we start having some, let's say, missions that they need to attain, and then the points are not just for the absolute numbers, but also for growth, and we started developing this concept of sales competition and gamifying the performance, right? That was the starting point. And when we created that idea on a PowerPoint deck, I remember that I presented this in a business conference, and I had a long queue of people waiting in our stand to understand more, and said, "Wow, that's amazing. We don't have the product yet, but we have a concept, right?" And we started developing this and selling this during maybe 1 year and a half, till we realized that incentivizing sales was kind of an extrinsic thing, because at the end, you sell a lot of times because you have knowledge to do it, right? And you have the experience, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But knowledge was a key portion of that. And we thought that instead of putting awards and prizes to incentivize the top performers on this kind of contest, it would be better to work on the background, on what makes you sell, what knowledge you need, and what makes you an incredible professional in front of a customer, because you know everything, not just the product, the objections, the industry, right? And we started playing with that, and then we discovered that the main win for the user was not just a prize at the end for the top, it was the knowledge that they acquire. So everybody that participates on a knowledge contest wins that knowledge and memorizes a lot of things and learns new things that resides with them forever. So it was a kind of intrinsic win. It has a purpose for the user to participate. It was not just competing against others with sales numbers. It was about knowledge, and that was really interesting, because then we align a lot with how we create the behavior of participating, why they need to participate, and that was a little bit the journey. And then we had a new business model. We changed it to SaaS subscriptions. It was amazing. Then we started having recurrent revenue, and then the platform supported something that is really aligned with every user, which is knowledge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to make sure that sales and marketing are in the same room together, right? Versus in silos. I see like sales enablement as a place where, you know, we can all live together and all, you know, have the information in one place and be able to level up, you know, our knowledge and you know, product, on the service, on the market, on our personas, et cetera, right? And speaking of personas, like, you know, can you give me an idea of, you know, for Compettia, right? I assuming you're targeting, you know, probably sales and marketing leaders, but, you know, tell me, I guess, a little about like the industries or verticals that you guys are targeting or want to work within.
Yeah. So our platform is very horizontal in a sense that this type of challenges, knowledge, is a universal challenge, right? But of course, we decided to start with a specific vertical and in industry, and we decided to start with pharma and medtech, where we have probably half of our revenues. But also we work in tech, in enterprise software and enterprise hardware. For instance, we work for 8 of the top 10 pharma companies in the world, so large multinationals, but also we have some mid-market companies and some startups in particular.
Interesting, really interesting. Why did you focus on the pharma space? Like, why focus on that audience specifically?
Yeah, because we shine where there is some product complexity, and pharma has this scientific knowledge, technical knowledge. Enterprise software and hardware also has this complexity, right? So we shine where there is some complexity. Even luxury industry has some complexity because they sell with a ceremony, special ceremony, and then we have also the distribution, geographically distribution points of sales that also helps us. So in companies where they have operations in different countries, they are multinational, different languages, knowledge flows very hardly, you know, because you need to you have the distance, especially if you have also stores, and even then it's more complicated, or you have sales channels, you have partners, distributors, then it's becoming really complex, because you need to engage with people, reps that are in companies that it's not your company, they are distributors, right? And they are exposed to a lot of other let's say things from other vendors, right? So you need to catch their attention and learn your messages, right? So complexity in product and also distribution, geographically speaking, and in channels is where we shine. That's why pharma has all these, because the channels for pharma are healthcare professionals, HCPs, and doctors and physicians, right? So those are the ones that advocates for the products of the pharma industry, right?
Yeah.
But then we have in enterprise software and hardware, we have distributors and partners, right? So with all this complexity in product and complexity in distribution, let's say, we shine a lot.
Sure. Sounds like that is a little bit of your secret sauce, potentially, right? Like you've built a product-led company focused on complex sales and education process to a very specific ideal client. But why would a pharma med tech trying to capture more of that market, or even the enterprise enterprise space? Like, why would a customer, go with Compettia over, the competition? Just kind of want to, understand maybe what sets you guys apart.
Yeah. So I think that those companies, a lot of companies, have a huge challenge, kind of untapped challenge, which is that they are losing a huge amount of money every month because of the knowledge gaps that they have in their sales force and sales channels. And when they realize, okay, we know that we have those gaps. If we could measure the amount of knowledge of all our sales reps, regardless if they are internal or external in partners, let's say that the knowledge level could be 65% or 70%. We know that there are 30% of gaps, but we cannot measure that, right? And I am thinking about gaps like product knowledge, features, specs, product portfolio, competitors, the value proposition, objection handling, cross-selling, all of this stuff and things, you might have knowledge gaps, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't have a way to measure that because they should potentially ask on survey with thousands of questions and nobody will answer those questions. But we have a way using gamification, which at the end creates the behavior for people to really answer a lot of questions. We have a way. So one of our secret sauce is the use of gamification on an app that seems like a game where people compete to answer thousands of questions, right? And they leave that experience with sounds, points, rankings, time scarcity. They challenge others, social pressure. There are a lot of gamification mechanics there that play a role to create that behavior and willingness of answering thousands of questions. And then we have a smart algorithm that repeats the most failed questions per person, increasing the knowledge. So you see how their ratio of getting right the questions increases typically by 25% on average, right? So when we assess them, we increase their knowledge. And all this is using gamification. So I would say that the secret sauce is gamification, because then we have nice charts and reports and dashboards that measure all the knowledge gaps, where they are, what topics, what channels, what teams. But this is the result of the willingness of people answering thousands of questions, and that won't be possible without gamification.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely makes sense, right? Like companies losing money because of knowledge gaps is definitely a big issue, and a driver of future revenue is the rep's ability to have that knowledge. And so it sounds like the platform gives your clients the ability to measure the knowledge of reps to drive future growth and revenue, which is definitely I'm assuming a big challenge a lot of these companies are facing, as sales cycles continue to, get longer, more drawn out, and expectations for sales teams to be able to close business has never been higher, right? That's a challenge that I think I've been hearing a lot. What about you? Like, what are some of the challenges that you're hearing your clients face? And then maybe we can talk about what challenges you're doing and trying to face as a business.
Yeah. So regarding the challenges of our customers, the main one is revolving around measuring knowledge, right? Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like talking about a problem that nobody is dealing with, and this is a little bit hard in terms of educating the customer, right? That, hey, you have this problem, and they just live with that problem, right? You have this problem, and this problem, if you measure the sales, and companies really typically don't measure the sales that they are losing, the opportunities that they are losing. This is not being measured typically, right? But if you could measure that, you will see that is way more because of the pipeline than what they are selling, right? And if just they could capture a portion of that and convert into sales, they will sell more, but they will create a lot of other benefits, like they will increase market share, because the sales that your sales rep are losing because they cannot position well against a competitor, those sales goes to competitors, right?
Mhm.
So if you do right this, you not only increase sales, you will increase your market share, you will increase your brand perception in front of a customer that those guys have great sales reps that speak about the company really well and they know it well prepared, right? They will also increase the morale of the sales reps, because nothing hurts more to a sales rep that I had an objection and I couldn't, I am not trained about that, right? So I am not getting the right training, and this hurts a lot. So it increases the morale. So it's a lot of challenges that those companies face, but they are not really aware till you explain, look, the whole of the gaps is as big or could be as big as this. I'm talking about millions in a year, right? So there is a huge opportunity for just recovering a portion of that, and while making excellent your sales force and your channels.
Mhm. And what about yourself? Like, what are some of the challenges, that you guys are facing internally? Like, from the outside looking, it's always hard to tell. Like, how are you guys continuing to grow, your market share? I know you guys are based in Barcelona. Is it, expanding here in the US, or is it a continued expansion in the EU globally? Just kind of curious.
No, US
Mhm.
is a big challenge, because we are far and we have this, let's say, time difference, right? That's important, and it makes total sense for us, because if you can imagine, in Europe, we need to deal with different languages, right? And the level of English in different countries is not the same, right? So yeah, we try to have the approach of delivering the value proposition and selling in English, but it's not easy in all the countries, right? But in opposite, in US is one big market, one same language, right? And I would say a very straightforward mindset, of I have this problem, I want to act now, or it doesn't interest me, and it's pretty clear, right? And that's why I really believe that the U.S. market should be our real market. We need to expand there, and the challenges are time difference, then how to educate and make the company visible about, hey, we solve something that is huge, is something that nobody's talking, because everybody assumes that is unsolvable, right? But it is. And when you need to educate this from the ground, it's really hard for a small company like us, right? And I would say that making the market hear our message might be the biggest challenge that we have now.
Mhm. So is there a focus for you on, a specific channel like outbound and outbound sales development? And like, how are you reaching this market here in the United States?
Yeah, right now we are using outbound, and it's something that we've been doing, I would say, since the last 20 years. So we are really great on outbound with different approaches. So at the beginning, a lot of email with marketing automation, and right now we are using more the phone, and with different cadences um, and ABM, ABS. We're focusing on some accounts and penetrating that account in different regions simultaneously. Um, and I think that this is something that we are doing pretty well. But when you are doing outbound, you need some kind of sync with the time zone, because you cannot reach the people, when it's not your time zone. This is a challenge. That's why the outbound way of approaching US has this challenge, right? And maybe not as effective as an inbound approach, where everything is available for the people to discover, on the website, and the SEO and all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So with calling being a big focus, are you working with teams here in the US to be able to hit the time zones
No.
that, no? Okay. So what's kind of been the focus? Are you using other channels like email, social?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we have kind of, depending, but on the West Coast, and on the East Coast, we have kind of, I would say, 3-4 hours where we have the same time frame. the same time zone, I would say. But that's how we use it. So I would say that maybe we just can get 30% of our work, there. So we thought about having some SDRs on the US, and that might be a wise decision. But also, I think that the inbound and content marketing might help, because content marketing doesn't know about time differences,
Yep. Yeah. So like when you are thinking about educating, your prospective customers, like how is content playing a role in that education?
Well, it's key, because I remember that in 2017 and 18, we invested in inbound at that point, and we created different pieces that still today pay some dividends in terms of SEO, right? So we still have some people that discover ourselves because of those pieces, right? So that was important at that point, and but you need to invest continuously. So it's a kind of a machine that you need to perfect every time and every month, and you are adding more content. And at some point, we needed more speed, and we decided to push for outbound. But certainly, you realize very quickly that you should have both approaches. They complement themselves, and that's why educating, you can say, okay, I will educate in each one of the intro calls that my team of account executives will do, or therefore spending resources, time, or I will have some great documentation content that will educate automatically everybody, right? Without any expense from human resources perspective, and this is really interesting. So that's why I think that content may play a strategic role.
Definitely. Yeah, it's funny, like there's a tool that, or not a tool, but a metric that you can use to kind of measure like what we call an outbound assist, like how many outbound opportunities that or people, that you focused in on targeting, how many of them are actually going to end up like maybe not replying, but going from your email, like copy pasting, your domain from your email into Google and searching and going to the website and, learning more, right? You could probably say anywhere between like 5 to 10% at scale. When you're doing, thousands of touch points every single month, you could probably say like 5 to 10% of people who aren't replying are still going to be visiting the website. So you can still potentially see like what's the inbound traffic organically going to look like after you start running outbound at scale, to see how those people who you did reach with outbound are coming inbound now and coming to the website. So that's a big piece of it, right? Like people want to understand who you are and what you do, sometimes without replying. Like 93% of all B2B buying begins with a Google search, and people want to be fed articles versus ads at the end of the day. So people are going to want to self-educate themselves and do all the research up front before they ever reach out to a salesperson. So I do think like inbound and outbound do complement each other, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So as you guys are investing into, your outbound channels, investing here in the United States, obviously continuing, to think about content, and leveraging content to drive opportunities and even potentially nurture opportunities. Like, what are some of the things like you're going to be working on for the next 6 months as we get through the rest of the year that you're going to be doing to educate the market and continue to grow and scale?
Yeah, so certainly educating the market is key, and what we are doing is a series of webinars for that. And we have, by the way, one webinar very soon. But we do this I would say once every 2 months, and we typically cover some challenges in the farm industry, or some challenges in the enterprise hardware or software, so the main industries that we focus on. And this is a source for us for educating the customers, right? And I think that this is the main way that we have right now to massively, with one act, let's say, educate people. And then we have our website, and the website, we changed the website, I think, kind of 1 year ago or something like that. Before that, we had a very complex with a lot of content coming from those ages, 2017, 2018. We recreated a lot of content, and we simplify a lot, which also was aligned with the fact that we wanted to focus on one thing, because at the end, with quizzes and training, you can train a lot of different things. At the beginning, we train about compliance, we train about employee value proposition, about processes, skills, a lot of things that you can do. But the message, if you do so many things, the message is not really focused, and therefore the marketing, the website, the sales rep pitch should be complex, and I ended up with complexity everywhere because of that. And that's why we decided kind of 1.5 years ago to let's focus on sales enablement, let's focus on product knowledge, let's focus on and therefore it will be easier to educate, right? But we still have the challenge that if we solve a problem that people don't understand that is solvable, this means that nobody's searching, for instance, or Googling how to solve that problem, because nobody thinks it's solvable, right? So we have this challenge, right? Which I think that by educating with content is the way to solve that, even videos and webinars. So I think that if we solve this, I think we will have a good chance to have success. It's true that related to this, we have also product launches. So a great moment of truth for a company is when they launch a product, they have a date for launching, they have a budget for launching. And when we come there and we say, hey, we can help your product launch, because we can measure the sales readiness of your sales force and channels about how ready they are to sell your product. No matter if you are planned to launch the product in some months, or you have launched that kind of 6 months ago, no matter where you are, we can do that assessment, see where the knowledge gaps are, and then boost the sales of your product, your new product, right? So there is a key moment for us. It's at the moment of launching a product, right? But it's more than that, because for a company, if they start with us with a product launch, then they realize, oh, we can use this for all the products and for all the product knowledge, right? And for all the channels. Yeah, so that's the way we approach this.
When you're working, I'm assuming within like the biotech, pharma, med tech space, they have a lot of different products that they're taking to the market. Is there anything publicly out there that you could potentially be leveraging to identify when these products are coming out, or news applications, or is it on company websites? I know in like the drug testing phase, you can see where things are in different phases and try to time that out as you take drugs to market. But what does that look like? In the space.
Yeah, we have the FDA. So it's they have all the the timelines and the phases of approvals. So we look at that. Then we also have the Google alerts about when a new product is launched, because even if it's a drug or a medical device and has been launched a week ago or a month ago, we are still useful, because they need to train the channels and they need to ensure that the level of knowledge is right. So we don't need to arrive right at the moment where they launch a product, right? I think we have a span of 12 months, 6 before, 12 later, that we are useful at that moment. And then there are other industries like automobile, where it's also one of our industries, and they publish, the automobile manufacturers, they publish when they will launch the new model and the new refreshes, the new model year cars. Also for software and hardware, just watching the news, they announce this, and sometimes there is somebody speaking, the product manager speaking about this product launch. So we have even the guy there on the news, right? So yeah, we follow closely all those news. Yes.
Yeah, those are great triggers. And lucky for you guys, yeah, a lot of that stuff is going to be public, and it's good to kind of hear like, hey, don't necessarily have to time it right at launch, but something that we can be measuring, measuring your sales team's performance, measuring, and seeing their knowledge after the products have been launched too, is still an opportunity for you guys to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So as you have your webinars coming up, in your series that you're doing, I'd love to give you the floor to tell people how people can find you, how people can sign up for your webinars, and what's the best way for people to get hold of you guys.
Yeah, I guess that the best way is twofold, is to go to our website, which is www.atrivity.com, which is the name of our product, or connect us through LinkedIn. So we have a corporate page on LinkedIn, Compettia, that announces all the webinars, and there is the best way. Both the website or the LinkedIn page is the best way to engage with us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the best way for people to get a hold of you as well?
Yeah, exactly.
LinkedIn, is that the best way for people to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn, I guess that LinkedIn is the best way, and but also on the website you can just contact us. We have forms there, so maybe the contact form will be the most one-to-one way, to connect with us, so we can just after that have a conversation and and see how we can help.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone go check out Atrivity.com. Compettia is the product, right? Or Atrivity is the
Exactly.
product. Compettia is the company.
Atrivity is the product. Yes.
There we go. Yeah, Atrivity is the product. So Atrivity.com has its own website. So everyone who's interested in learning more about, how you can arm your sales team with the right knowledge, and be able to provide them with sales enablement materials to help them increase their product knowledge, to ideally increase revenue and opportunities close. Definitely sounds like, a lot of companies are gonna, if they haven't invested or not at the right stage, this is definitely a good time for you guys to think about how you can, continue to decrease sales cycle by allowing your sales team, to get the type of product knowledge they need, and do it in an environment that's fun for them as well. Because it's a tough environment out there. So, the more information that people have about these products, about your solutions, about how to position them in the marketplace against the competition, and be able to measure it against what their own employees are doing, and it seems like a fun way for everyone to level up and become successful within their roles and level up the company.
Yeah, totally. And let me add just that now that everything is related to AI, right? So how you can have an interview without saying anything about AI, right? And I would say that for us, AI is like blessing, because we can generate automatically all the questions, all the content, which is typically a friction for a company when we tell them, look, we can solve your knowledge gaps and increase the sales, but you will need to create content to assess the channels and the sales force about your products, and say, okay, how we create that content, because we have a lot of documents and trainings and things like that, but we need to create quiz questions, right? Who's going to create hundreds of quiz questions? Now we can say AI will create the questions for you, and we'll do it really perfectly, because we have a different ways to approach that, different stages, and it iterates, and it makes them better. And also AI will translate those. And if you want to deploy multinational games in different languages, where a British guy challenges a French one, and each one sees the questions on his own language but participate the same game, which is really cool, you don't need to deal with translations. AI will do that. Of course, you will need to review everything, right? But we decrease by 5 times the cost for that. So that's how we embrace AI, and we leverage that incredible trend that now we are being faced, everybody, So this is really, really cool, and for us, it was a really plus for this year.
I love it. Yeah, that's great, right? How can we leverage such an amazing tool like AI to help our teams spend less time in the app and creating these courses and leveraging tools to help kind of reduce their bandwidth and allow for more creativity and experimentation with AI, right? That's awesome. That's really neat.
Yeah.
I wish we would have talked about that earlier, but I'm glad that you're able to kind of plug that as that's a new feature, a new tool you guys are working within.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, I appreciate you being here and taking part in the Business Ninjas podcast and sharing your story. It seems like you guys are well positioned within the sales enablement space to help sales teams from all different industries, help get more educated on their products and make it fun in the process. So I'm glad you're able to share that part of the story, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys grow and scale over the coming months, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can help you too.
Thank you, Max. It was a real pleasure to be with you here.
Thank you, Jaume. Yeah, appreciate your time, sir. Good meeting you. And thank you for everyone for listening to this Business Ninjas podcast. Have a great rest of the day. Cheers.